HappiDaze here, and in today's video we are looking at the man, the myth, the legend, Monkey D. Luffy himself, the star of the 10th anniversary batch, and in my opinion, one of the best characters in One Piece Treasure Cruise. So we're going to go ahead and do a deep dive into his kit. We'll look at some gameplay footage to show you how he works in PvE content, as well as doing some PvP content as well to show you how he fares in that game mode. So let's go ahead and get into his kit, what he can do, and we'll start from there. So he is a INT fighter powerhouse unit, so that means that he'll be buffing those three conditions because that's what he is. So you want to make sure that when you're doing team building, you're basically doing INT units, powerhouse units, or fighter units. He has a special when fully maxed of 16 turns. However, you can get that down to 15 turns if you use level limit break. So you want to go ahead and make sure you do that. In terms of what his captain ability itself is, it does a lot of things. Like it does like five plus things, which is kind of insane for one unit. So let's go ahead and dig into what he can do there. He ends up charging the switch effect and the versus effect for 3 turns at the start of the fight. So why this is so important is because there are game modes like Kazuna or TM that only have a limited number of stages, and if you're using switch effects or versus effect characters that have a high switch gauge, like for example 6 or 8, you'll never be able to get those kicked off in time in order to use them for those game modes. This captain ability allows him to just gain 3 off the bat, 6 if you have a Luffy captain and friend captain. It's nuts. It'll just open up team building so much for TM Kazuna that it will be very useful going forward. In terms of what he can do for units that match his kit, so for fighter, powerhouse, and INT characters, he will end up reducing special charge time by 2 turns at the start of the quest. Again, that's fantastic. If you have double Luffy's, it'll be 4 turns. It'll just help you get through content much quicker. You won't have to stall as much for specials, and you'll be able to kind of get to doing massive amount of damage really quick without having to stall too much, which is always appreciated. In terms of what he can do for attack boost, so for INT, powerhouse, and fighter characters, he ends up giving a base 6 times boost. After you hit 3 perfects, that goes up to a 6.25 times boost for those final 3 hits, which is just awesome. You can just do more damage. The meta is slowly creeping above 6, so that's always appreciated. If you do use his special and you hit excellent timing on that, you can actually boost that 6.25 if you hit 3 perfects up to 6.5, which is just, like 6.5 times is just crazy. Love to see it. I'm not sure how I feel about the whole captain ability, because it has to be a captain. It can't be a friend captain to get that 6.5 boost. So that's a little disappointing. But ultimately, the fact that you can go up to 6.5 is pretty crazy in itself. If you're not one of those characters, you do get a 4.5 times attack boost instead. So you're not completely messed up if you don't have one of those 3 characteristics of being into powerhouse or fighter. He also boosts HP for those 3 conditions or classes by 1.35, so it's just great to have another little HP boost there. He does make INT and tandem orbs beneficial for the crew. Love to see that. And he also reduces despair by 10 turns. So despair is one of those debuffs that happens on so many stages in One Piece Treasure Cruise that having someone who can take care of that is a huge plus. So just make getting through content a lot easier. You won't have to worry about that. It's a high turn percentage as well. So just make things a lot easier getting through content. And lastly, what it seems like a novel of what he can do is if you do an attack boost, he will actually extend that attack boost for 1 turn. So as we enter special, you'll see why that's critical. But having the ability to just move that by 1 turn or 2 turns if you have 2 of these units on your as your captain and friend captain will just let you carry attack boost across so many different stages. It'll be really important for things like Kazuna. Or even TM, where you carry, or you have bosses that, a boss on stage 4 and then another boss on stage 5. Content like that will just help you get through that a lot easier. So that is his captain action there. Like I said, it does a lot of stuff. It's crazy how much they fit into one little captain action. In terms of his sailor ability, before we take a look at his special real quick to show what his sailor abilities are. So if he's a crewmate, he basically boosts the crew's stats by 150 and makes intended orders matching. It's not terrible. It's stat boost, it's whatever. But the one that's really interesting is the second one here, which basically allows you to reduce the charge time for all characters by 1 turn at the start of the quest. So a free 1-turn cooldown is awesome. Just by having him on your crew, you get a 1-turn cooldown. Like, you can't really complain too much about a sailor ability that does that. pretty fantastic. Let's go ahead and dig into what his special does. Again, his special does so much that it's kind of crazy, all the different things that his special can do. Especially there's one item in particular that I'll talk about that I think is super broken. But before we get to that, he deals 300 times his attack in non-type damage to all enemies, ignores all defensive effects. Love to see that. Can help clear mobs or, just get through different content there where you might have to hit a bunch of characters that might not have a lot of high HP. Really good for that. He then delays all enemies by 1 turn, ignoring delay immunity, which is fantastic. It's kind of a weird part of his kit because, you wouldn't think of Luffy to really delay units. But it's good they included it, and it goes through the immunity as well, so you'll always be able to get some benefit from it. And then lastly, what I think makes this unit super broken is that he reduces bind by 10 turns. So bind and despair are probably the top 2 effects and debuffs that you'll get put on your crew on all the content. And the fact that this one unit with his captain action can take care of the despair, with his special can take care of the bind, it's ridiculous. He just does so much. And on top of that, he can also do 10 turns of threshold reduction. He's clearing buffs out there like crazy. So this unit is super good. And you can see why when the details first came out, it was pretty clear that he was probably the best out of the new batch just because of what he can do. And if that wasn't enough, he also changes block slots to int and makes it so that you basically can't change those slots unless you're changing them to int or block slots for 2 turns. So any block changing slots are always appreciated, always good in content. You always see that usually on the final bosses. So the fact that he'll just take those orbs, switch them to int, and then they can't be changed unless you're doing it to int or block is just awesome. You can't complain at all. And then what he will do lastly, if you have an attack boost up there, he will basically give you a 2000 boost to your attack, to your base attack. So if you have 2 of these units on here, you use the first Luffy, you will end up getting a 4 times attack, or up to 4 times attack if you hit excellent on your special taps. And then you will get the base attack boost if you use the second Luffy afterwards. So as long as you have an attack boost already active, when you do the second one, you will get the 2000 base stats. And if you don't have an attack boost active when you launch a special, you get that up to 4 times boosted there for 2 turns. As I mentioned with his captain action, he extends the attack buffs by 1 turn. So if you have 2 of these as your captain and friend captain, you can actually get a 4 turn up to 4 times attack boost. That is bonkers. 2 Luffys, you could actually get up to 8 turns of a 4 times attack boost. It's nuts. It's crazy. And I'm glad we're here for this meta because that's just... you expect Luffy to do Oomga Boonga damage, right? And that's exactly what this unit does, which is why he is so awesome. And again, if that wasn't enough, he also will further boost orb effects by 1.5. So what you basically want to make sure you're doing is that if you have a orb booster on your crew, you want to use your orb booster first, and then use this unit afterwards, because then it will give a 1.5 multiplier to whatever the multiplier of that orb boost that orb unit did, right? So if you had, for example, the new Roger unit who gives a 2.75 orb boost, and you basically get up to above a 3.5 orb boost if you use his special after you use that Roger special, because he'll do that 1.5 times boost for orbs. So he's ridiculous in what he can do. It's just the amount that he can do in his special and captain action is nuts, and he's going to do a ton of damage. You do have that limitation that you have to use int, powerhouse, and fighter characters, but this unit is fantastic. One of the best units that they probably released so far. So now that we've looked at his captain action, looked at his special, look at his super EX. So if you have any 3 members on your crew, and it's this list that you see right here, which is mostly the Straw Hats, plus the new legends that just came out in terms of Roger, Shank, Sabo, Ace, Law, Kid. If you have any of those units on there, then you'll be able to trigger that. You do have to have 3. That's kind of the downside there. But if you have 3 units, you basically get a free 30% HP heal, which is always appreciated. Just helps you get through content, not kind of too crazy there, but you'll use that in some cases. And then what he'll do, and this is what you have to kind of think of, is why is Bandai have this next condition that they mention here, which is if you have characters on your crew who are cerebral or shooter as a first class, it basically changes them to fighter, and then makes int character super int and makes fighter super fighter. So the reason they do that is because the Vegapunk batch that just came out are cerebrals, they're shooters, and what they want you to do is give you synergy there, right? So Bandai wants you to use this unit in tandem with Atlas, with Vegapunk, with Lilith, and in order to do that, because they're not I think Atlas actually might fall into the powerhouse class, but the other two, Vegapunk and Lilith, aren't in that class, right? They're cerebrals, and I believe the Lilith is a shooter in cerebral, and I forget what the Vegapunk himself is. I know one of the classes is cerebral. I forget what his second class is, but it's not one of the ones that Luffy boosts. So what this special Super EX special will let you do is basically turn those cerebral units into fighter, so they get all the buffs that you have there. So that's kind of why they have this this text in their Super EX. So I think a lot of times you probably use it more for the healing as opposed to changing the cerebral or shooter to fighter, but like I said, it's just nice having a free heal there if you have these three characters on your crew. Let's go ahead and take a look at his potential abilities real quick. So he does have critical attack, so basically you just get a 10% damage boost if you land a perfect on the last strike. It is what it is. It's not too bad. What's really interesting here is you get a ship bind potential, so you get up to 5-turn ship bind. So they only did this so that you could get through the Katakuri fight on the upcoming TM Blackbeard banner. That is literally the only reason why they have this here. It makes no sense. They just did it so that it'd be a reason to pull this unit so you could get that benefit on that stage in the upcoming Blackbeard banner. And then lastly, he does get a Sugo Rush. So I'm not going to go into the details exactly in terms of what it can do here. Just know that what you can do is if you go to level 5, for example, you could see the table here. What's really critical to take away from here is that you could either do a last tap, a Sugo Rush on the first tap or of the last tap. So if you do it on the last tap, you do get more damage because obviously you only have, you're using them at the very end. So you can see the different multipliers here. And obviously if you do it as the first tap, you get more taps that you can do. If you do it on the sixth tap of the chain, then you get less taps, 7 versus 10. But your buffs are a little bit higher. So all the units have the same Sugo Rush for this anniversary, so they're not like great. They'll do a lot of damage, but there's not one that's like clearly better than the other. So it'll be good. People will use it, but like I said, you probably won't go rushing to max out this Rush Sugo special. But at least if you want to use it, it'll do a lot of damage when Luffy hits, especially if you're using him as the last hit of the chain there. In terms of support abilities, what he can do there is, and this is what's kind of crazy, he goes on pretty much any of the Straw Hat crews here, but they do have to be int. That's kind of the one downside there, is that, I mean, granted, all these units have a lot of different versions, but it has to be an int of basically the Straw Hats or Law and Kid. But if you could get one of those, basically you get a 1.2 increase to orb boost for free, up to a maximum of 3 times. So you just want to make sure that, if you have one of these units who are doing an orb boost that's greater than 3, it won't do you anything because it won't go past 3. But if you have any that are in like the 2 to 3 range, you'll get that free, basically 20% additional slot boost effect for free. So it's a fantastic support effect. You'll definitely see some play there. So yeah, we'll see how that ends up working in the end. So let's go ahead and take a look at his Rumble stats, see how he's doing there. This guy is kind of the new meta, right? In terms of, and we'll get into it, but basically he's kind of trying to replace the G5 Sai Luffy that they released that is just dominating or has been dominating in PvP, right? So this is the kind of the Bandai's response to taking that. So this unit is, as I mentioned, just like his regular character, it's a fighter powerhouse. He's int. He's 55 cost, so you have to kind of calculate that when you're building your teams. Obviously, if you have units that are int, like S-Hawk, for example, you want to throw him on teams with Luffy. But yeah, it's kind of tough when you have a lot of 55 cost characters on there because it kind of severely limits what you can do in terms of team building. But he is an attacker style unit. And basically, let's take a look at his Rumble abilities first. So just base abilities here. At level 5, he will give int type teammates attack up 6, special CT up 3, defense 6, guard up 5, and self shield 7. So defense is always great to have. Level 6 is pretty fine. The int team doesn't have a lot of cooldown, so that's probably the biggest weakness of the int team. So the fact that he gives +3 there is always appreciated, and of course attack up is good. The shield stuff's kind of, it is what it is. Does help you a little bit, but it's not the end-all, be-all there. So he's really obviously meant to be on int teams. That's really what he boosts, and that's where he's supposed to go. In terms of what his special can actually do, so he does target int-type teammates for attack up level 6, so just adds to his base ability that he gives there. And he targets enemies within large range for 5 times damage, does an absolute bonkers hit there, and then he targets 2 free spirit enemies with high special CT to get forced out for 10 seconds, so it just kicks them out. And if they don't have any other units in the back bench, then you automatically win the match. So it's just crazy what he can actually do. We're in a meta now where Bandai is trying to basically fully nerf free spirit characters, and even with the new Seraphim Boa that just came out, like they're really trying to nerf free spirit a lot. So you can tell that's kind of what this unit is focused to do. When we get to his GP abilities, you'll see that continues out there. So big damage hit, attack up, and it basically kicks off 2 free spirit classmates who are about to go off and do a special. Like it's insane what this unit can actually do. We'd like to see it. And he does completely evade half stats and action bind. So again, like that, and 30% damage reduction from Psy units. So an absolutely fantastic unit there. Will do a ton of damage. And like I said, if you're facing free spirit teams, he'll just eat them up and spit them out for breakfast. In terms of his GP stats, so he does get 2 bursts. To activate these bursts, you do have to take 52,000 damage, which isn't that much, especially when you have teams like Sasher teams or the Strength team going that do damage to defense. It's pretty quick to charge this gauge once you have some of that going. So in terms of his actual leader skill, he boosts Psy and Int units, so you want to build teams that are focused around Psy and Int. And he will basically give a attack and speed up level 7, defense up level 3, and then Powerhouse Fighter Cerebral class teammates. You get HP speed up level 6, and then you get some special CT speed up level 3. So again, just trying to make your units go faster, get off faster, and they're really kind of trying to get you to use int or Psy units on here. So not a bad leader skill. Not completely broken, but that's kind of what it is. And then the GP burst. This is the one that you get 2 times, and his GP burst is nuts. Like, this is probably the best GP burst in the game, I would say, even better than the Psy G5 Luffy's burst. And basically what it will go ahead and do is target all enemies for 6k damage, then does the leader's base attack times 2, ignoring defense. Like he just melts units when he goes. It's ridiculous. So like, if you can get him to go, you're just gonna, especially free spirits. One, he knocks out 2 free spirits himself, right? But then if you use this in tandem, he'll end up actually taking out 3 more free spirit characters. So if you're facing a full squad of free spirits, if there's only 5 units left, and you use Luffy's special and then the GP burst here, you won. Like, you just won. Like, it's ridiculous, and it's awesome, and it's a complete counter to the Psy Luffy that's there, and it's why they have him going out there to go ahead and take out that Psy Luffy. So that's going to wrap it up for this portion of the video. Let's get into some gameplay to show you how Luffy actually works in real gameplay footage. For the first PvE match, we're going to go ahead and take on Garp Challenge Navy. And the reason that we're deciding to take on this stage is because you do get Bind, you do get Despair, and there's some more effects that we can use to show you how much damage this Luffy can actually do. So let's go ahead and get into some of the content here. This isn't as difficult as some of the other content that we have out there, but I just want to get a quick video out there just to show you what Luffy can do on normal content. As I mentioned in the video that I was just doing before, he does end up doing a 6 times attack boost if you are into Powerhouse or Fighter. So he just does a lot of damage off the back. As you can see here, we're just easily one-tapping the units without too much difficulty. He can also take care in his special, getting rid of Bind, which is fantastic. He can get rid of 10 turns of damage threshold, which is also fantastic. But the main benefit of his special is going to be the ability to have multi-turns of attack boost, up to 4 times, depending on how you do on the captain, as the special timings that you do on his special there. So let's go ahead and just plow through this content. We're using Zoro to get rid of the damage reduction. Could have usually used Luffy, but we're saving him for kind of the last 2 fights just to kind of show you what we can do there. So easily get through the content. Like I said, just one tapping we're able to get through. On this stage, we're going to go ahead and get Despair. You can see that gets removed thanks to the captain ability of Luffy. Makes it really handy. We could end up using the Bind of Luffy here to get rid on the bottom 2 rows there, but we're just going to use Jinbei because it's a little bit easier. Like I said, just trying to save Luffy for the final 2 stages so I can really show you how he can have an extended attack boost. So his special will give him 2 turns of up to 4 times attack, but with his captain action, he extends attack buffs duration by 1 turn. So with 2 Luffys, we can actually turn that 2-turn attack boost into a 4-turn attack boost, which is just kind of crazy with what he can do. So on top of that, we can also use his super type to help give us some additional type effect bonuses as well. You'll see that in the next stage, but for now, basically all we're doing is we're just using that attack boost of one of the Luffys to just melt through that content here. Not even a problem, not any issues there. Makes it pretty easy for us to get through the content. In this stage, you do get some locks, which is kind of annoying. You can only do 4 taps. So you just have to make sure that you can do a lot of damage. So that's why we're using the EX Super of Luffy here. So as long as you have 3 of the Straw Hats or any of the Anniversary Legends, you can easily get through the content. So you can see I was able to defeat the Fuji character there with just 2 taps. And then I just had to wait for the second turn just to destroy these other units just because I could only do 4 total taps. So absolutely ridiculous unit. One of the best friends for this unit is going to be this Roger unit here, who gives an orb boost with his special. Thanks to the special ability of Luffy, he will turn that 2.75 orb boost into much higher. He'll do a 1.5 multiplier times that, so it brings you up to like a 3.5 plus orb multiplier on top of the attack boost that you get. So just the raw damage you can do is just kind of crazy here. So on this first stage, we're just going to get the orb boost just so we can do some damage. There is a revive mechanic on the Akainu unit here, so we're just going to just regular tap with our units just to get rid of his first stage. And then we're going to go ahead and be able to use our Luffy special to extend that orb effect orb effect multiplier by 1.5 there. Give us some more turns of attack, another 4 turns of attack boost. We could have actually just used him himself to get rid of the damage threshold, but that's just showing there. That's 2.75 for the current orb. And then after that, if we just take a look at what the orb multiplier looks like, we'll see it's increased to actually 4.12, which is pretty crazy. And then we just do the Super Sugo of Luffy. You can attack in the 1st or 6th position, but I just attacked in the 1st position just to show you what it looks like. And you can see he just steamrolled that content pretty easily. So this is just your first example of how Luffy can get through really hard content pretty easily just by what he can do in his captain ability as well as his special abilities. So let's take one more look at some other items that he can do in PvE. For the second PvE showcase, we're going to go ahead and take on the TM MiniBoss Doflamingo. That's part of the ongoing Blackbeard TM. The reason we're doing this is because this stage was specifically made for Luffy and to kind of show off what Luffy can do in terms of his special, in terms of his potential abilities. So I think that this is just a really good way for us to showcase what he can actually do. So we're just going to go ahead and grab a duplicate Luffy here. So the really nasty part of this mini-boss for TM is that on the 3rd stage, you get a 50% HP cut preemptively. He disables healing, so unless you have a lot of HP going into that last stage, then you're in trouble, because he also inflicts pain, where you get basically 20,000 damage per action that's not a tap as well. So it makes the stage really difficult. You have to do it in as little specials as you can to get through it, and that's where this Luffy really helps out. So I'm going to go ahead and use the super type for his heal. He has 30% HP heal, so if you do it twice, obviously you get a ton of extra HP there. And I'm just going to use the special here just to also do some damage reduction to help with that 50% cut on the last stage. We don't even need it because we have so much HP, but it's good to just have it anyway. So let's go ahead and get into the last stage so we can show you what that looks like. We are going to use his 4 times or up to 4 times attack boost for multiple turns. We're also going to be using his potential ship bind ability. You get 9 turns of ship bind here, so with double Luffy captains, we get 10 turns eliminated. Completely means you don't have to deal with that debuff at all. You get your left column binded for 10 turns, so we're going to use our Captain Luffy to go ahead and remove that. And literally with just that and the fact that he's a Luffy unit and you can throw things like attack down on him, with the support that we have on this Luffy, we can literally get rid of 2 turns of attack down too. So literally 1 unit gives you heals, gets rid of bind, gives you a 4-turn attack boost, and just lets you just steamroll through this content, which is why he's so awesome. And of course he also has his Sugo Rush to help out. I just one-tapped because he's dead. Like, I didn't have to even bother tapping again. That's how kind of crazy the amount of damage that you can output with this guy is, and why he's so good, and why he's going to be awesome in PvE content going forward. So that's going to wrap up the PvE demonstration portion of this video. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the PvP portion and see, what this new Luffy can do in PvP, both in regular matches as well as Grand Party matches. So let's go ahead and get right into that. For the first PvP showcase video for Luffy, we're going to go ahead and take on this Strength 100k team from Pirate Rumble single matches. And really, we just want to show how quickly this team can do damage, and particularly how quickly that Luffy unit can go ahead and do damage. So we also want to see if we can demonstrate a little bit of the force out mechanics. So if the character is a free spirit, when Luffy's special goes, he'll end up knocking them out for 10 seconds. And it's just great because it doesn't let them use their specials for that 10 seconds. If there's no other units on the bench left, you automatically win, which you'll see in this clip here. I am using a combination of Atlas for damage. You have Uta, who also does damage, Moria, who does some defense and some half stats. Bonnie just helps with special burst, but isn't really used too much here. But Luffy is kind of the key playmaker here. We want to be able to basically go in and do as much damage as we can really quick to show you just how crazy this team can be when it's clicking on all cylinders. Now, the big downfall for this team is cooldown reduction, so you do have to watch out for that. But as you can see here, once you get your units going, you can just melt through content. So Toki there got forced out, so as long as we can kill these 3 units here, then we win because she's so forced out and there's no units left on the bench to come in. Uta's going to come in, do a nasty, just crazy hit, and with that, even though the Toki unit was still alive, we just win. So that's why this unit and this team is really good when you're outputting damage really quick. But how does it fare against teams like Slashers? To answer that Slasher question, we're going to go ahead and take on the 91k Slasher team. This team is an absolute crazy slog. You have the S-Hawk unit who can go ahead and do 3 turns of damage to 3 characters that are insane hit. You have the Roger Whitebeard unit who can do a 30% HP cut, also knock off 2 units. You have K-Dad who can do up to 5 hits there. You have the Odin who does 2k fixed damage. So there's a lot of crazy gimmicks that go on when you're fighting these Slasher teams. And the problem with Slasher teams is if you're not first, then you're most likely going to get killed before you're able to actually go out and do any damage. And because of the cost of all these units on the team, you have to make sure that you really go first, especially against Slashers. It's probably not so much of an issue against some of the other 100k teams, but at least for Slashers, you have to go first, or your crew is going to get wiped out. So what we're doing here to help kind of deal with that is, in the last video we used Uta for damage, but we switched her out for Vegapunk. He just gives a little more special cooldown resistance, which is why we want to use him. We're still using Uta for damage there, so as you just saw, she hit like a tank, did 8 hits there. And you really want to be able to kind of keep sustained damage, as well as kind of reversing these specials of the Slashers, so that you have a chance to have your specials go first. And that's kind of the strategy for winning with this team. It's not always a guarantee, and unfortunately when I'm making this video, the Block A team has Slashers with the speed advantage, so it's a little bit tougher. But you can see here, when Luffy goes, he just literally wiped out most of those characters. Now, the good news for us is that once those front line is wiped out, like, it's an easy victory from that point. But you have to be able to get your specials off first if you're using INT Luffy, if you want to be able to kind of maximize the most of him, right? So that's how we're kind of getting around that on the Slasher team. Moria for defense, Luffy for the absolutely ginormous hit that he did on that whole Slasher team, took out the whole front line, and the Moria with the half stats and the just lets you just hit like a tank, right? When you get that 5 times damage through, not through defense, when you do the 5 times the attack leader's damage there with Luffy, he just melts people. It's fantastic. It's awesome. And his burst is even crazier in terms of what it can do. So Right here at the end of the match, we're really just stalling just to beat those last couple units that were there. But you can see that this team pretty easily took on the 91k slasher team with some of the craziest slash units that we have out there today in One Piece Treasure Cruise. To wrap up this PvP video, just do one more video. We just take a look at how the Luffy does in content in Grand Party. To showcase Grand Party, we're going to go ahead and take a look at one of the matches that we did last season against the Slasher team. This team does have S-Hawk, it does have Roger Whitebeard, and it's just a nasty team, especially with that Zoro Sanji to help boost the specials to the top. So what we really have to do is be able to do a lot of damage really fast to get through the content. So the goal or the strategy here is to be able to use the burst of the G5 Luffy to go ahead and do 6k damage to our opponents, as well as knock out 3 free characters for 15 seconds. And then in close proximity, use our Luffy special to go ahead and do 5 times the leader's damage in a large range, and then be able to knock out 2 free spirits for 10 seconds. If we're able to knock out all the free spirits and there's no one on the bench to replace them, then you end up getting the victory automatically. So we did take a shot there from the S-Hawk, which charges the damage meter that we have to do to get our burst ready, 52k. So that's good. So now we're pretty much just waiting for some of these other units here to be able to hit us. That way we can go ahead and charge that burst all the way and then use it. The one downfall to this team is that Luffy does take a while to actually get going and hit, just because there's not a lot of natural CD reduction for this team. You do get some through the GP leader ability of Luffy, but it's not a ton. So you get a little bit of a boost, but not too much. He also boosts Psy and Int characters. He helps their defense a little bit. He helps their attack a little bit. He gives himself a self-shield, so it just really helps there. So you can see what we're really doing here is just kind of waiting to be able to use that Luffy special. We're going to charge our burst right here with the Roger Odin shot, and then basically use our burst to just do a ton of damage and force out a bunch of their units. So you can see the burst goes right here. Pretty much wipes out most of that front line, which is fantastic. And then Luffy's burst is going to go here. Unfortunately, there's only one unit, but you can see he just did a 19k shot to the Roger Whitebeard unit. Everyone else is still knocked out, so as long as we can go ahead and defeat this guy here, Dalton, before any of the units come back, we automatically win, which is just fantastic. It's a really fun ability to play around with, and that's why I really like this Luffy and what he can do in PvP. Taking damage is a little bit tough, but like I said, I think going forward, you will see this guy definitely see a lot more play, and he might even be a replacement for the Psy G5 Luffy that you see going around. So just to wrap up this showcase video, I just wanted to close out by saying this Luffy is an absolutely fantastic unit. One of the best in the game. His abilities in PvP are nuts. His ability in PvE is awesome. Like I said, the only thing that would make this guy probably, a 9 out of 10 would be if he enabled free spirits as well as the 3 classes that he does. But with all he does in his special and his countability, you really can't complain about this unit. So hopefully after watching this video, you realize how great Luffy is. You'll use him in content going forward, especially ones that have side bosses or want you to use int teams. He'll just be an absolute wrecking ball, especially in Kazuna's 2 with his ability to give charge time of 3 to both switches and versus effects. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the like section below if you're able to pull this Luffy, if you like him, what your favorite part of his kit is. And until next time, be kind to each other.